to the whole of Africa. All of this is generous on your part. We are receiving this and we accept this message from you. Before I talk about my country, I would like to let you know that we are delighted to see President Trump's commitment to our continent. Mr. President, in the short time you've been back in office, the last few months, you came to the rescue for peace. You did it in Asia with Pakistan and India. The war sort of started, and if it had gone on, the consequences could have been a real disaster. Since the beginning, you've been doing a great deal of work on the war in Europe, that is the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You rushed to Africa to resolve a long-standing problem. Lots of efforts had been made by many heads of states, but your will made it possible for this agreement to be signed. And now, this conflict is behind us. You are currently working with a great deal of enthusiasm. And you're also working on the Middle East. You're paying a great deal of attention to the Middle East. We all know how far back this conflict goes. It is a conflict that is about 80 years old. 70 years, but it is also a war that has been raging for a year and a half. And you've also talked about the human toll. Many people have died in this conflict. Of course, you also stopped the war between Iran and Israel. That could have been a real disaster for the region. It's a sensitive region to start with. Your work in favor of peace has been tremendous, and we are also very interested in supporting peace in the same way. When there's no peace, like you said earlier today, when there is no peace, a lot of other things are lacking. When there's no peace, it is difficult to have prosperity. It is difficult to have calm, to have a sense of quietness. It's hard to sleep. It's hard to go about your business every day. You understand that well, Mr. President, and you're working on this. So thank you. I am the president of Mauritania. Mauritania is a small country. Depending on the criteria you apply. If you look at the number of people who live in Mauritania, it's a small country because we have about 5 million people in Mauritania. We might just be a little bit over 5 million. It's a small country also in the sense that what influence it has throughout the world. It's not like the US, Mr. President. Internationally, we understand that our weight, our influence is not that great, and we have no complex about this. It's also a small country because of our level of prosperity. We're not a very prosperous country. We have many problems related to the well-being of our population. But it is also a great country, a big country in other ways. Mauritania is a great country in the sense of its strategic position. It is on the Atlantic coast, which makes it a neighbor to the US. It is what unites North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, or what links the two. That is its strategic position, but also in terms of resources. We have a great deal of resources, many, many resources, and we have a lot of opportunities to offer in terms of investment. We have minerals, rare earths, rare minerals. We have manganese. We have uranium. And we have a good inclination that we have lithium and other minerals. We're the second largest producer for the last 60 years in Africa of iron ore. We produce a lot. And we have a lot of resources in our seawaters, so lots of fishing and whatnot. I don't want to spend too much time on this.
But I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it. Maybe we're going to have to go a little bit quicker than this because we have a whole schedule. If I could just say it's, your name and your country would be great. Thank you, please.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente Trump, e sobretudo.
Thank you, Mr. President, and for welcome and everything. For us, it's the second time here to come as a guest. The first time we had that meeting in Guinea-Bissau, but I will not talk so much. But Guinea-Bissau is a peaceful country, and we are a small country, but we are a great state. Not a great state like the United States, but we're a great country as well. And to end, we are be following your dynamics and the war with Russia and Ukraine. And you can count on Guinea-Bissau. Thank you very much.
Recent celebration of your 249th anniversary. We did in Liberia at your embassy. Mr. President, we thank you for this opportunity to be here. Liberia is a longtime friend of the United States, and we believe in your policy of making America great again. And we also go a long way with you in your diplomacy that has to do with economic development and commercial friendship. Liberia has a lot of minerals, and one of the things we ask as good friends for a long time is the opportunity to do a survey of our minerals. Mm-hmm. And also we are committed to peace, and we've been very lucky within our region. We are a country that have had a series of democratic elections, and our country had been cooling down. And also, we want to encourage American involvement in the investment in Liberia. Yeah. We'd like to see that happen. We want to work with the United States in peace and security within the region because we are committed to that. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. And such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well,
Very
and
good, sir.
they come from
Save the Children global organization warns that fuel blockade on Gaza could cut off drinking water to around 44,000 children within days. British Prime Minister hosts the French President, marking the first state visit by a European leader since Brexit. And the Ukrainian President meets Pope Francis to discuss the urgent need for peace. Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has expressed optimism that a ceasefire in Gaza and a detainee release deal could be reached soon. Speaking at a press conference in Bratislava after talks with Slovakia's Foreign Minister Jari Banilar, Sa'ar said Israel is serious about negotiating a temporary ceasefire that could lead to a permanent agreement. The comments come as mediated talks with Hamas resumed in Doha, with US President Donald Trump also predicting a deal this week. Sa'ar emphasized that while Israel remains committed to its war objectives, ending the conflict is a key priority.
We sent a delegation to negotiate in Doha. We said yes.
Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has expressed hope that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will return from Washington with a ceasefire agreement to end the war in Gaza. Lapid said Israel is at a decisive moment and expressed hope that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would return from Washington with a deal to secure the release of detainees and end the war in Gaza. He stressed that reaching an agreement is a top priority for the Israeli public, reflecting mounting domestic pressure to resolve the ongoing conflict. Britain Minister for the Middle East and North Africa, Hamish Falconer, has strongly criticized an Israeli proposal to establish a humanitarian city in Palestinian Rafah, calling it appalling. In a post on X, Falconer condemned Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz's plan to relocate Gaza's population to the southern city, warning that Palestinian territory must not be reduced and civilians must be allowed to return to their homes. The proposal has sparked international backlash, with critics calling it a blueprint for ethnic cleansing. Save the Children global organization has warned that Israel's fuel blockade on Gaza could cut off drinking water to around 44,000 children within days, raising the risk of waterborne disease like cholera and dysentery. The charity relies on fuel to deliver clean water to 50 communities daily, but no shipments have entered Gaza since the total siege began on March. Ahmed Al-Hindawi, the charity's regional director, stressed that access to safe water is a fundamental human right and called for an immediate end to the fuel restrictions. Well, for more analysis, we now move to Hala Hamalawi in our newsroom. To you, Hala.
Thank you so much, Muna. For further analysis, we're joined from Cairo, Sarah, and specialist in regional and international security, Dr. Ahmed Al-Shahed. Welcome to Q News, Doctor. Now, let's start by asking you, both Israeli Foreign Minister Sa'ar and opposition leader Lapid expressed optimism about a Gaza ceasefire deal. What factors indicate a genuine shift in Israel's negotiating stance, and what are the primary internal and external pressures driving this?
First of all, good evening to you and to the viewers. Of course, there are factors that push in the ceasefire deal directions, and there are real hindrances that might prevent the deal. The factors that might help is the U.S. will to conclude a deal and gives this as a political victory to Trump, as he's capable of finishing military operations, starting with the India-Pakistan war and then the Israeli-Iran 12-day war and now the Gaza war. They want to portray him as capable of pressuring Israel to stop the war. The second point is that the Israeli army and troops are now fairly exhausted and they have not achieved any of the desired goals so far, whether politically or militarily. The goal related to releasing the detainees and the military goal represented in eliminating Hamas completely. Third point is that the Israeli army has recently borne a lot of casualties as numerous soldiers were murdered, which reflects negatively inside the Israeli society and paralyzes the trust and confidence between the people and the military. The most important point here also is the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza, which imposes and forces Hamas to provide some concessions, as the Palestinian citizen now cannot continue like this, especially with Israel using the starvation weapon like that. The last thing that I would like to indicate is that the international pressures, as the international community sees it as the final and the appropriate point to end the conflict, as the Western communities are now highly provoked by the Israeli actions. The hindrances or the challenges in this respect will start with the Israeli persistence on not withdrawing from the Gaza geography and insisting on having buffer zones on the Mirage corridor and to have Rafah as a humanitarian area, and insisting on not having Gazans in the north. Also, the ongoing military strikes and the aggressions continuing and the starvation scheme taking place to impose a de facto that to displace the population. Yeah. Also, the lack of a vision of the next day to the war and the Hamas future in terms of governance gives Hamas some reservations and unclarity of how the situation will be after the war. The third point is that Israel will not accept a complete, comprehensive ceasefire and moving in a certain framework for 60 days, which gives an indicator that Israel might not commit to the agreement and might violate it or even resume the war after the 60 days, which will get Hamas rid of its last pressuring card, which is the detainees.
Yes. Well, that was Dr. Ahmed Shahed from Cairo, political science professor and specialist in regional and international security. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. And now we go back to Mona Mselhi in our studio. To you, Mona.
Thank you so much, Hala. And back to our bulletin. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled unanimously that Russia is responsible for the 2014 downing of Malaysian airline flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine. The court found that Russia failed to conduct an adequate investigation, did not cooperate with the requests for information from other authorities, and offered no legal remedies for survivors and relatives. MH17 flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur was shot down amid fighting between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian separatists, killing all the 298 people on board. Moscow denies any responsibility for the incident and previously denied having a presence in Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump has said his administration is considering assuming greater federal control over Washington, D.C., citing concerns about crime and governance in the nation's capital. Trump said his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, is working closely with D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and that the White House could run it so proper if needed. The comments signals a possible shift in federal oversight of the city, which currently has limited autonomy despite being the seat of government.
In the sense that we would run it so good, it would be run so properly.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has hosted French President Emmanuel Macron at 10 Downing Street, marking the first state visit by the European leader since Brexit. Joined by their wives Victoria Starmer and Brigitte Macron, the leaders focused on key bilateral issues, including a potential returns agreements for asylum seekers. The proposed deal would help the UK curb migrants crossings from France, a major political priority for Starmer. Macron, speaking a day earlier, confirmed that both countries' interior ministers have been working on the issue and expressed hope for tangible results this week. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte ended the visit to Windsor Castle, marking the second day of Macron's state visit to the United Kingdom. Macron is set to meet British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for lunch, where discussions focused already on immigration, including a potential asylum seeker return deal and cooperation on Ukraine, trade and defense. This is the first state visit by a European leader since Brexit. China has rejected Germany's accusation that a Chinese warship laser targeted a German aircraft in the Red Sea, calling the claim completely inconsistent with facts. China Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said China's Navy was conducting escort operations in the Gulf of Aden and Somalia to maintain international waterway security. She urged both sides to take a fact-based attitude and improve communication to avoid misunderstanding. Germany's defense ministry reported the incident occurred earlier this month during an EU mission safeguarding Red Sea routes. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has met Pope Leo near Rome to discuss the urgent need for peace. The Vatican reiterated its readiness to host Russia-Ukraine peace talks despite Moscow's earlier rejection. Zelensky thanked the Holy See for aiding the return of Ukrainian children taken to Russia ahead of the Ukrainian Recovery Conference in Rome. Zelensky expressed hope the Vatican could host high-level peace talks to end the war amid ongoing Russian attacks. The Kremlin has questioned the accuracy of a CNN report claiming U.S. President Donald Trump once warned he would bomb Moscow if Russia invaded Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said there are many fakes and that he couldn't confirm the report's truth. CNN cited audio of Trump making the remark at a private donor event during his 2024 campaign. The Kremlin has said it remains calm over U.S. President Donald Trump's reported threats against Russia and his frustrations with President Putin. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov noted Trump's tough style but highlighted his admission that resolving the Ukraine conflict is more difficult than expected. Peskov said Moscow still hopes to repair ties with Washington and expects Trump team to pursue a political solution in Ukraine. He added that Russia awaits a proposal for a third round of peace talks, stating the situation on the ground is changing daily. Russia's foreign ministry has said that Ukraine had violated the Ottawa Convention even before its recent withdrawal, accusing Kiev of using anti-personnel mines against civilians. Spokeswoman Maria Zakharova claimed Ukraine failed to destroy its stockpiles as required by 2010 and that Russian authorities have documented civilian injuries. Last month, Ukraine formally exited the treaty banning landmines, citing its wartime needs. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is set to meet U.S. envoy Keith Kellogg in Rome ahead of a major international conference on Ukraine's recovery. The meeting follows U.S. President Donald Trump's pledge to send more defensive weapons to Kiev. Zelensky is also expected to meet Pope Leo and Italian President Sergio Mattarella. The July 10th till 11th Rome summit will focus on Ukraine's long-term reconstruction amid stalled diplomatic efforts to end the war. Istanbul has sweltered as temperatures soared to 36 Celsius degrees, with some crowded neighborhoods feeling like 45 Celsius degrees. Locals cooled off by swimming in the Bosporus or resting in shaded spots. In the historic district, restaurants workers shaded themselves with umbrellas and offered cooling mists to passers-by. Meteorologists warned that the heat wave, which is 4 to 5 degrees above normal, is expected to persist for another week across Turkey. Satellite images have shown smoke coming from wildfire near Marseille. A wildfire near Marseille, France's second largest city, eased overnight, but firefighters remain vigilant as the smoldering blaze could reignite. Authorities lifted lockdowns for residents through about 10 homes were destroyed and dozens damaged, with no reported fatalities. The fire sparked by a car catching fire on a highway has scorched 750 hectares amid strong winds. Satellite images show smoke drifting over Marseille and out towards the Mediterranean. A new study has warned that rising temperatures and shifting water cycles threaten the stability of glaciers in the central Chile, especially around Cañón del Maipo. While no immediate danger is expected, 4 glaciers show high susceptibility to hazards like mud flows and landslides. Experts highlight the need for preventive measures, citing cases like Switzerland's 2025 glacier disaster as a cautionary example. Athens' iconic Acropolis was closed during peak afternoon hours due to a severe heat wave, with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius. Visitors were turned away until after 5 p.m. when the site reopened as temperatures cooled. Volunteers from the Hellenic Red Cross provided water and information to tourists waiting outside. The ancient UNESCO World Heritage Site draws millions of visitors annually. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. Save the Children global organization warns that fuel blockade on Gaza could cut off drinking water to around 44,000 children within days. British Prime Minister hosts the French President, marking the first state visit by a European leader since Brexit. The Ukrainian President meets Pope Leo to discuss the urgent need for peace. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Q News EGY to stay informed. Many thanks for watching, and good night.